Tank Dell appears on the injury report, apparently injured late in the Minnesota Vikings game. What does that mean for the Texans? And could we see an offense that has to function without Tank Dell and without Joe Mixon? It is S&L, Landry Locker, Cody Stoots with you. We're with you Monday through Friday. We're on the scene. We'll be at practice today. We'll hear from Bobby Slowik. We'll get into that in a sec, but let's just get right into this. Tank Dell appears on the injury report. I don't want to try to predict whether or not he's going to be out there, but it did not sound like when you heard from CJ Stroud and then you heard from DeMeco Ryans, and we'll hear from them in a second. It did not sound like they were speaking about someone that they expect to be on the field on Sunday.
No, I totally agree with you. The way that CJ talked about Tank it sounded like he was dealing with something that at the very least is keeping him out of this game, but maybe could keep him out for more than one game. The report is ribs. The listed injury is chest.
Chest, saw hand. I saw a lot of stuff.
Chest could be anything. I've not seen hand anywhere but one place. So it could be anything.
It's ribs and chest.
It doesn't feel like Tank Dell's playing on Sunday. If he is able to play on Sunday, it doesn't feel like Tank Dell's going to be close to 100% or even maybe 80% to play on Sunday. You have so many wide receivers on the roster. Like, I understand Sunday's important. We've talked about it on the show. Sunday's really important. Sky's falling if you don't win on Sunday. But you also have to think about the big picture from a health standpoint with Tank Dell. If he's not even close to getting ready to go, you can't throw a hobbled Tank Dell out there and expect good results, even against the Jacksonville Jaguars.
See, I don't know if the sky's falling if you lose on Sunday. I mean, it depends what it looks like. But for me, I think you're basically like, did you ever go to a public pool as a kid? Did you ever go to like a public swimming pool? I think right now the Texans, they just paid, we'll go back, we'll date ourselves. They just paid their $1 at the front, and to the left is the kiddie pool, and to the right is the high dive. So like, heading into Buffalo, like you're either playing in the kiddie pool with the AFC South and you're in the mix of one of the worst divisions in football, and you're eating Laffy Taffy and there might be some turds floating around in the water, or you're going and jumping off the high dive. That's where the Texans are right now. You either make the right and you're facing Buffalo trying to get into that tier, or you're just playing in the kiddie pool in the AFC South in this game. I don't think the sky will be falling. I think the division's too bad for there to be a sky is falling type of vibe with this squad.
Well, I think the sky, to me, the sky's going to be falling because the team's not going to have anywhere close to the level of performance we expected out of them. You're going to be readjusting how good you believe this team can be. You're going to be readjusting how low the floor is for this team as well. Like, I came into this season basically saying, there's no way they're not making the playoffs, even if they're the 7th seed. Like, there's no way they're not making the playoffs. You lose to Jacksonville, coming off that Minnesota disgrace in 2 games where you squeaked by for a victory.
So you're saying sky's falling? I just don't. I think they're going to make. I think they could lose the next 2, and I would still think they can make the playoffs in this division.
Sky will be falling.
There you go. You heard it here first. Let's hear from CJ Stroud. CJ Stroud was asked about potentially playing without Tank Dell. I'll let y'all decide. Both me and Cody were there. You tell me if this sounds like a guy who anticipates that one of his best friends and favorite targets is going to be on the field on Sunday. Here was CJ Stroud at practice yesterday.
It's hard to say. We haven't had to deal with that this year, but we have other guys that are well equipped. But would we love one of the best receivers in the league to be out there for sure? But it's always sadly in the league, next man up. Got to find a way to win a football game. You know what I mean? So, we're praying for Tank. Hope he's okay, and we know that hopefully he's trending up. But whatever happens, we got to be able to try to win.
All right. And I mean, you could look at that a number of ways. Just for me, it sounds like someone who at the very least, it's not, it just doesn't seem like he's going to be out there. We'll see.
CJ Stroud does strike me as the type of person that, he's praying for you no matter what's wrong with Tank Dell. If Tank Dell had a pinky toe that was hurting, he'd be praying for him. If he's got bruised ribs, he's praying for him. So I don't think that was necessarily the part of it. Like, I initially I was like, oh, he's praying for him. Like, is this really bad? Like, how bad's he hurt? But I think CJ Stroud will be praying for him no matter what. So yeah. I think the first part of the conversation is where it did not feel like he was ready. And also it didn't sound like he'd been around. Like, it's one thing if you can't go, hey, they want to hold you out of practice, but it didn't feel like he'd been around for a day or so here.
Yeah, it did not sound right. The other element of this is the DeMeco element, and I just wanted to, there's some criticism of having Tank Dell out there late in the game. I got thoughts on that, and I'll get into that in a second. But Tank Dell gets hurt. He gets hurt late in a game where you're down 4 scores. CJ Stroud was on the sidelines. Sometimes you put your guys on the sidelines. I asked DeMeco about it, and he was pretty firm on his stance. Here was what DeMeco had to say. I think this could generate a lot of discussion. Shout out to everyone in the chat. Be sure to ride along Monday through Friday. The Locker Room on YouTube, Cody Stoots channel. We got you covered. I'm live nightly at 10:30. Cody has news videos throughout the day. So you've come to the right place to get the pulse of the Texans, whether you're a Texans fan or not. Here's my back and forth with DeMeco about the Tank Dell injury.
Any information on Tank Dell?
Tank will be day to day. We'll see how he continues to progress.
Is there any concern about having someone like Tank out there late in a game and the injury happening?
No concern for me. Injuries can happen at any given time. What if the injury happened first play of the game? Should he be out there? We can't control when injuries happen. Guys are going to go play. That's part of our game, part of the nature of the business. When you play this game, unfortunately, injuries happen. Nobody can predict when injuries happen or when a guy should be in, shouldn't be in.
Okay, I mean, I get what he's saying. I understand, kind of. CJ Stroud was on the sidelines. I know. I know he was limping. It seemed kind of more like a pimp limp. So I get what DeMeco is saying. My whole thing is this with Tank Dell, and I've seen. I think Branham was really criticism. Shout out to Jeremy Branham. He was criticizing him, and there were other people that were critical of Tank being out there, which I can kind of understand. But the other thing is, like, maybe it's just possible that Tank Dell's going to get banged up over the course of an NFL season. Like last year, it was he shouldn't have been blocking in that area. You should put like a box around the trenches, and Tank Dell shouldn't be there. He got hurt against Atlanta, whatever I think it was. He landed on his like maybe there's just going to be some times where the size comes into play, and he's one of those guys who's going to get banged up a little bit, but. I don't necessarily, I get what DeMeco's saying. Well, if he would have been out there, should he have been out there? Yes, he should be out there at the start of the game. But in a 4-score game, you can make a case. Is there any value in having Tank Dell out there? I think it's very fair. It's the same thing as last year in week 2 when CJ Stroud has a hurt shoulder, and at the end of the game, they're down 2 possessions, and he rolls out and gets thrown on his effing shoulder by DeForest Buckner. And you wonder what the hell were y'all doing? So I know DeMeco kind of went hardo there, and that's kind of his mentality, and I get it. But I can also understand the other side where you might say, why are our most impactful players out there?
I mean, I'm with you. It should have been Davis Mills, Robert Woods, Xavier Hutchinson, and Cade Stover out there. Like it. I mean, if CJ's coming off the side to the sideline, get Nico and Stefon and Tank over there as well. DeMeco Ryans has a lot of cachet that he's built up with the success from last year, and I think he's a pretty darn good coach, and he's pretty logical sometimes. That's one of the more illogical moments that he's had, where he kind of creates the false argument of like, well, what if he got hurt on the first play of the game? Well, he didn't get hurt on the first play of the game. He got hurt on the last play of the game. So it's like,
yeah,
like what if my aunt had different equipment between her legs,
But I mean, it's not. I don't even think this is really hindsight. I think DeMeco is one of the guys who blocks out the noise, and then he says, well, it would have been. People immediately, as soon as there's 3 scores for get the starters out of the game.
I mean, is there? I just wonder, is there some sort of benefit to having like this? Is Tank better in week 4 because he catches a ball at the end of the game in week 3? Like if you want to make that argument, sure, I'll listen to it. Does that potential positive outweigh the negative of him, hurting his ribs? No.
Well, there's been times where even in the New England days, I'm like, why is Tom Brady playing this in this situation? But the other thing about it is it's not like college. Like if this were college, like if we were covering U of H and DeMeco did that, he would have gotten hammered because you have like 90 men on your roster. So, there's a handful of guys, whatever. I think we might be in a situation where Tank Dell's going to be banged up. Will Kunkel of Fox 26 asks, have we ever considered an OnlyFans? Haven't. Have not. At all.
The only time I ask for your money is if you want to subscribe to Houston
Will,
football.
by the way, Will Kunkel, great Fox 26, also one of the worst defense attorneys of all time. He is putting up pictures of 3 illegal formations and acting like because you call one that the other 2 don't exist. So I've talked about this, the dream team with Shapiro, Cochran, Barry Sheck, my boy, my friend F. Lee Bailey, rest in peace. And then you have the non-dream team with Will Kunkel, Texans cap, Titus Howard, and Laramie Tunsil. So shout out to him. Thanks for the pictures. Thanks for nothing. Josh Michael, he is swarming the super chat.
Swarm.
And he is doing so with a nobody's talking about. Here is what Josh Michael had to say. Landry, I know you don't like. I like you. I don't know you, sir. You don't like the home jerseys. But do you guys think a change in jerseys can ignite the offense? I think home cooking can ignite the offense. I think facing the Jacksonville Jaguars can ignite the offense, especially given if they run as much men as they have. But I don't know if new jerseys can look good, feel good, play good. Is that the old Deion Sanders thing? I see that.
Oh, yeah.
Look, the home jerseys are fine, and I think these guys can make any uniform look good. I just think it's too similar to the old jerseys. I wanted like an extreme change. So yeah, not big on this. It's a little traditional. I would say that this was probably more of like Cal wanting to be traditional than the new wave of things. But yeah, I'm not big on the home jerseys. But yeah. I think the home cooking could ignite him more so than that. Appreciate you, Josh.
Yeah, that was the home jerseys felt like the try to satisfy everybody jersey, like try to satisfy like the I don't want change crowd.
Yeah, I don't want change. But yeah, we have Tank Dell on the injury report. The other question is, what does this look like? Like, what does the offense look like with Tank Dell on the injury report? Could it mean more Dalton Schultz, perhaps? Do we see maybe a little bit more Dalton Schultz? Now, is the offensive line going to block enough to where you don't have to keep Dalton in there? That's a question. But if you can't run the ball and you aren't blocking well, what do you do? And you don't have Tank Dell. Does this mean perhaps we see more Dalton Schultz? There's people saying, oh, it's Mechie breakout time. I don't know about that. I think we see more Hutchinson and Robert Woods perhaps than that. But what does it mean if you do not have Tank out there?
Well, it's worth noting, we talked about Tank on the injury report. Joe Mixon didn't practice either. So the rushing game is still likely to be Cam Akers and company. Dameon Pierce didn't practice. I don't believe Damien's going to be ready to go.
I don't either. I saw Aaron, and Aaron's doing what Aaron's doing. I would hold off on the Dameon Pierce thing. We'll see. But I would hold off on the Dameon Pierce thing.
Damien's always optimistic about his injuries, but I don't know that it always pays off.
I think Dameon could have an ankle like snapped in half and need 8 surgeries, and he would feel pretty good about himself.
Yeah, so I don't believe it's going to be Mixon or Pierce available for Sunday. So Cam Akers and company, you're not able to run the football. And look, some of the film guys or tape watchers or whatever.
Tape watchers.
They'll tell you, the way that teams are approaching Stroud and company, like you need to be able to run the football.
Too deep. How many times do we have to hear a too deep question at the press conference, by the way? Yesterday, Alexander got in the mix. What is this too deep thing? Is this like a Mel Kiper reaction? I keep hearing about 2 shells, too deep, all that type of stuff. Is that what's going on here?
I don't know. Some people are too deep in the weeds on this. Just run the football better, and everything else will be easier.
I'm hearing too much too deep, bro.
You know who didn't have any problems with the too deep is Andy Dalton. He was just slinging it all over the place, over people's heads last week. Like, throw it past them. Okay, they're back there. Just run the guy past him. Throw it past him. CJ's got a big arm. I don't care about that. But they got to run the football better. And if there is no Tank Dell, which we don't believe there's going to be a Tank Dell, I actually believe it's going to be a more Xavier Hutchinson. Because you've seen him a couple of moments here and there, and CJ's found him. He was one of the plays that got erased by the Laramie Tunsil illegal formation. It was a really nice play over the middle. And yeah, is Mechie going to be active if Dell's down? Probably. But that doesn't mean that he's getting, slid right into the rotation. I mean, you've still got Xavier Hutchinson. They like to put Robert Woods on the field. And then I'd be interested to know if no Tank Dell is available now, if maybe they do something different with Diggs and that maybe he plays a little bit more outside than inside. So, and then of course the tight ends, I would, if this
Do you
was
think Irv Smith gets activated this week?
Yes,
I do too. I'm starting to think that
I also
gets activated.
I also think there's like an outside chance that instead of Irv,
I know where you're going.
Instead of Irv Smith, it's
84,
Myrick.
84.
It's Myrick, and
84 or 83. I see these guys getting cracks at it this week.
Yeah,
one of them.
He can be like the blocking only guy. Who is man? I feel like the O'Brien era had like a bunch of just like random back of the roster, like blocking only tight ends. But like maybe this Myrick cat is that guy for a couple of games. They had the guy at the end of the year last year that was the blocking only guy.
The dude, Siebert, whatever.
Yeah, he played at like Columbia or something.
Tatted the hell up.
Yeah. So maybe they have the blocking only guy in Myrick, or maybe they have Irv Smith come up. But yeah, get somebody involved. I mean, it's not like Tank. I mean, look, Tank ran a lot of routes. Tank got some targets. It's not like Tank was the offense. Like you still got Nico, you still got Stefon Diggs. A little bit more for those guys. Sprinkle into some Xavier Hutchinson, a little bit more tight ends, and maybe this offense clicks a little bit against a crappy Jaguars team.
So let's hear from Dalton Schultz. I went up to Dalton Schultz, just asked him how he's doing. I got the dude, man. If you're not a bro if you don't get a dude from Dalton Schultz. Just asked him about his mindset. Could we see more Dalton Schultz? Let's hear from him in the Texans locker room.
Be able to fix the mistakes from Minnesota.
Good. When you go back and you watch film, it's like never as good, never as bad. We put like obviously not the outcome that we wanted, but like there were some good pieces and like good plays that we put out there. We just kept shooting ourselves in the damn foot. So guys came in with the right mindset today, working on detail, working on the mistakes, working on kind of new stuff that we got to get ironed out. But yeah, feel good.
Are you feeling, because you were a little bit more battle tested than a lot of the core of this team last year, are you feeling like you're seeing these guys able to, not that y'all didn't handle it last year, but they're better equipped to handle like disappointments like Minnesota and be able to bounce back quickly?
I mean, yeah, that's the nature of the league, dude. Like you're gonna have the best team in the league, might get beat, by 20 one week. It's just sometimes that's how the business goes, and it's about how you're able to kind of correct and come back the next week. And so, short mindset, get in here, fix them up, come back ready to work, ready to swing.
DeMeco said different players handle losses different. How long does it take you to start looking at the next game?
I'm looking at the next game. For me, I was looking at it like Monday.
Okay.
I woke up, I started watching film. Honestly, if like we have a 12 o'clock game and our next opponent's playing Sunday Night Football, I'm watching that game. So it's like win, lose, draw. Like you got to find out, what your process is. And for me, it's like watch them as soon as you can. Get ahead of things.
Appreciate you, man. Yeah. Thank you very much.
All right, there you go. That's Dalton Schultz. That's the nature of the league, dude. That needs to be a soundbite.
That's the nature of the league, dude.
But he's a bro. You know how he is. So here's my question about this offense, and we appreciate everyone for.
Wait, real quick. I remembered the guy's name by looking it up. The blocking only tight end from a couple of years ago, Anthony Auclair.
Oh yeah, good old Auclair. He was from Canada, right?
Yes, he was from Canada. He went to Laval College.
Yeah, I remember that guy. So here's my question. Like, there's always like over the course of a season, sometimes there's like that was a blank game. And I'll even go back like OJ Howard, if we're just gonna stick with tight ends, like OJ Howard, the juice man, I called him. His first game, I think he had 2 touchdowns. Like his first game as a Texan was random as hell. He had 2 touchdowns out of nowhere, and it was like, what in the F is this? It might have been 1. I'm not sure. There were 2 tight end touchdowns. I'm not sure if he had both of them or not. Who on this offense is capable of having a blank game? Like this guy, and we can obviously dismiss Mixon. Mixon's already had a game, so we've had a Mixon game. We've had a Nico Collins game, so there's been that. Who on this offense is capable of having a blank game? Diggs for sure. I think we can agree there can be a Diggs game.
Collins and Diggs are the obvious ones.
Okay.
Like that, like there can absolutely be a Nico Collins game. There can absolutely be a Stefon Diggs game.
Okay.
I'd be interested to know what the power rankings are after those guys.
Because I think there could be a Schultz game. I do think there could be a Schultz game where maybe he has like 6 or 7 catches or something like that and a touchdown. I think there could be a Schultz game without Tank. I actually think there could be an Akers game where Akers is giving you like 15 for 83 and a few catches and stuff. I think there's capability of there being an Akers game. Is it going to be awesome? Is it something that you can rely on multiple times? No, but as far as like that, you remember that game for that guy, I think Akers and Schultz, the guys that we don't talk about, are the two that we could potentially look at and say that was the blank game.
No, Akers is certainly in the conversation. I'd put him ahead of Schultz too, just because I feel like he's going to get the ball. I mean, DeMeco Ryans said this week they didn't run the ball well enough. They've addressed some of the offensive line issues. Is something else that he said. Hey, part of that's got to be running the football. Akers is your best option. They're going to put Dare Ogunbowale in there a couple times, but they don't want to hand him the ball. They want to hand Akers the ball. He made something out of nothing on the one play where he hit the spin a couple of times. You know, I think that was his 9-yard rush. Now I think everything else
first down, and then then after that, Stover got blown up by Grenard, and they went out of field goal range.
Yeah, so I think there's, you know, the other rushes weren't great. He had the catch in the red zone that ended up being a score. Like there's a little bit of something to Cam Akers. So yeah, if you told me after Nico, after Stefon Diggs, we could remember the Jaguars game as the Cam Akers game, especially because those games are more likely to occur against lesser opponents. Yeah, I'd believe you on that.
I want to ask you something that nobody's talking about. And we're in the sticks because this is Texans talk. So I'm just going to ask you if this is a possibility. It's not even like a huge deal. I'm kind of overhyping it the way I'm presenting it. You think there's a chance that maybe like Stover's inactive this week?
Oh, no. They need no chance. Because then they would only have one tight end if he was inactive.
No. If they elevated the other two.
Well, and they'd elevate both tight ends. Well, no, they got to elevate JJ Taylor again because they don't have enough running backs. So
Okay.
no, I'll tell you no. There's no chance Stover's inactive this week. If he's inactive, it's because of an injury, but he's not on the injury report.
Yeah, okay. That was a bad game for him. I bet you he's being very hard on himself though.
Oh my goodness. Can you even imagine how mad he was? Can you imagine how I imagine Cade Stover.
Oh, he was pissed.
I imagine he got home Sunday night and then his phone rang and it was his dad. And I'm sure.
Yeah, I don't think his family sugarcoats it either. If he played bad, I don't think they sugarcoat it.
I bet he saw his phone ring and he's like, "Damn it!"
I'm gonna talk to Stover today, and I'm just gonna be like, "Hey, how would you assess your performance?" And he's gonna be like, "I haven't embarrassed myself" or something. Like that.
He is not going to be like he feels like the type of guy that is not going to be kind to himself ever, but he feels like the type of guy that's going to call it like he sees it. With a bad performance too.
So the Jags right now, they're a near touchdown underdog against the Texans. DeMeco and CJ Stroud are insistent that the Jags aren't bad when you watch the film. I would agree with that. I don't think the Texans are, head and shoulders above the Jags right now, but I do think they have a chance to bury them. So I don't really I wouldn't really say that. I wouldn't really say that the Texans are like light years ahead of the Jags.
No, they're not. They're not light years ahead. They're definitely ahead. And being at home, Jacksonville on the shorter week after getting their, butts kicked on Monday Night Football, it's a great spot for the Texans to put together their first complete game of the season because they haven't had a complete game yet. I mean, even when they were taking care of Indy on the ground, they weren't getting things done through the air consistently. The pass blocking wasn't great. The defense had some hiccups, but you could put together a calm down performance with this Jaguars team coming to town because of where they are. Like they're going to make mistakes. They're going to have poor blocking assignments. Their quarterback's going to make some throws that a guy that makes that much money shouldn't make, and they don't have elite level skill position players that you have to worry about. They don't have a Justin Jefferson that you need to worry about. So you have the opportunity if you're the Texans to put together a really big performance. But Landry, I think for a lot of games, I don't agree with the sentiment. And this is you've seen DeMeco talk about it this week. CJ mentioned it. Matt Burke has always said it. We don't necessarily worry too much about the opponent. We care more about how do the Texans perform. This is the week where I totally agree with that because there were so many issues last week. Like the Texans have to be good before you can take advantage of the Jaguars being bad.
Yeah, we said that, but we also said that that San Francisco win by Minnesota would lead to them having their attention more. So I don't like predicting the mental approach kind of seems, I don't want to say dangerous, but I don't know that they get the benefit of the doubt after the way they looked in Minnesota.
No, benefit of the doubt's out the window. Benefits of the doubt, the part of me saying sky is falling is if they lose Sunday, that means some of the stuff that we have seen that feels like it's correctable may not be correctable. That would be the scary part of the Jaguars' performance.
We got a swarm of these super chats.
You ain't never hate.
Swarm. All right, Amir G. I won't try to pronounce your last name, my friend. I'll just call you Amir G, my friend. Loving these daily S&L segments. You guys go together like PB and J. Landry, remind me of the tailgate you guys recommend. Where are they? Do they accept cash as opposed to Cash App? They would accept cash. Give it to the dude in the fireman outfit, Freddie. It's enough said. They're in the blue lot. You'll see fire trucks. You'll see shots. Just go up to Freddie, hand him $20, $40, whatever. Yeah. But yeah, be sure to do that because they were kind of getting raided last year. But yeah, 20, 40, you'll get some amazing barbecue. They have bottomless beer, and they'll probably get you really hammered before the game. So enough said would be the recommendation there if you're going to tailgate.
Yeah, all the info that they have is on Facebook too. So if you catch them on Facebook, they got all that stuff on there for you.
Yeah, they got you. They got you covered. Shout out to Enough Said. Shout out to the tailgates. Bobby Slowik, he's going to speak today along with the other coordinators. Bobby Slowik is getting a lot of criticism. I woke up this morning to a DM, and I guess the question was being asked, is this does Bobby Slowik really need to answer the questions? Is this, I'm not saying that I'm right or anything. I just don't specifically know what I'm supposed to be mad at Bobby Slowik for. Like, I don't know what I'm specifically supposed to be upset. If the offensive line is his fault, maybe the question is how much of the offensive line, if communication is truly an issue, how much of that falls on you? Like something like that. But like, as far as specifics, I don't know what I'm specifically supposed to ask Bobby Slowik about.
I found it very interesting that CJ Stroud mentioned that they've got to do their jobs better and they've got to buy in to what Bobby calls. And it felt like Stroud was kind of saying, hey, maybe you might be upset about Bobby, but if we don't do our job, it's not necessarily Bobby's fault. Stroud also said, hey, there's 2 or 3 guys that always catch strays when team doesn't do well. It's the head coach, the OC, and the quarterback. But I thought that was interesting that, like, hey, Bobby's done a good job. We've got to get more into what Bobby wants us to do as a team. And so I felt like that was kind of the execution element from the players that CJ was explaining. Hey, like, some of the issues with the offense, not what Bobby says in the headset, it's what the 11 guys are doing on the field and what we need to clean up and accomplish against the Jaguars.
Yeah, and that's the thing that I think that we need to get with Bobby Slowik is what is your role with the offense? What do you need to do? Can y'all run the ball? Like, is it possible? Like, is it impossible for y'all to run the ball without Joe Mixon? Is that where we're at? Like, what are we doing here? If the offense goes out there and lays an egg, then I do think the heat turns up on Bobby Slowik. It's almost right now though where I don't want to say you expect, but you anticipate them bouncing back just because that's what they've done in a short time. We really haven't seen like 2 ass efforts in a row with this regime. So once that happens, things obviously change and he gets turned up a little bit. But right now we saw an ass effort in Minnesota, and you just wonder, does that get duplicated or not? But I think most people kind of lean, and the people in Vegas seem to be leaning with they're not going to have back-to-back bad efforts. So that's just kind of where we're at.
I agree with you on that. I just feel like what occurred last year, and again, we have a small sample size with Bobby Slowik. We have one season of him being the offensive coordinator. Carolina was a joke last year. Like, they should not have lost that game. They should have smoked the Panthers. And that was that was one of the most disappointing moments for the offense. They had it dialed in, ready to go the next week against a somewhat decent defense in the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. It was awesome. I believe Bobby Slowik has that level of bounce back in him with this offense.
That was
certainly
you always mention that game. That was a weird game, Cody.
I mean, CJ Stroud set a bunch of rookie records there.
Yeah,
passing.
but they didn't have a kicker, and it was like that was a little bit fluky.
Oh, if they kicked a couple extra field goals, he wouldn't have thrown for 460 yards.
I mean, they kind of let it loose. They were going on fourth down more than
because the offense sucked the week before. That's why they let it loose. Remember CJ saying they need to throw it more that week, and then they threw it more.
Yeah, but you always mention that, and I just feel like that was like.
What else am I supposed to mention? Am I supposed to go back when he was a quality control coach in San Fran? If this was Andy Reid, we'd have decades of experience. If this was Kyle Shanahan, we'd have a decade of experience. But this is the second year of Bobby Slowik as the offensive coordinator. He's the top offensive mind in the building. What am I supposed to point to? They fixed the offense and got on a roll for 3 weeks after that.
Yeah, I mean, yeah, I guess the Tampa game was just weird. I mean,
okay, well, what about Cincinnati?
Going on 4th and goal. It hits the touchdown to Schultz. So yeah.
Yeah, but what about?
I like Cincinnati. I like the Cincinnati example better. Example better.
Okay.
Give me the Cincinnati. Noah Brown game. See, that was a Noah Brown game. We talked about games. That was a Noah Brown game.
Yeah, Cincinnati might have even been even more impressive because it was on the road. It was after you showcased all the offensive excellence the previous week. There wasn't any weirdness to it. And they went there and put a bunch of points on the Bengals and that Lou Anarumo cat, who everybody just thinks is the greatest thing since sliced bread when it comes to defense coordinators.
Wait a second. I don't like where this is headed. Does this team miss Noah Brown? Does this team does this offense miss Noah Brown? It seemed like he was always there for us, man. Now that Tank Dell's out, wouldn't you feel a lot better if we could point to Noah Brown? That Tampa Bay game, Noah Brown had a hell of an impact, Cody. They don't do what they did without Noah Brown in that Tampa Bay game. That 75-yard touchdown after Tampa Bay extended it to a 10-point lead was big. And that Cincinnati game, Noah Brown was arguably the best receiver. So sure. maybe we miss Noah Brown. Maybe that's what we need to admit. We miss Noah Brown.
Cody does not miss Noah Brown. Cody's excited for Stefon Diggs to take care of business.
All right. Swarming the super chat again. I think all tight ends need to be involved in the game plan as a pass catcher. I don't know if you game plan for Cade Stover or Irv Smith or anyone, but yeah, I would say maybe you get some Schultz. Brown was too inconsistent. He was there when you needed him. Brown is not someone you want to rely on all the time, but he was there when you needed him. And hey, if my number 3 receiver can be elite over a 3-week stretch, I'll take that. But yeah, we'll see. I mean, but he's too inconsistent. I think you're going to get inconsistent from 4 down. All right.
Real quick, people are asking, are you sure Tank Dell's out? Is it confirmed that he's out? It's not confirmed that he's out. But
no, some weirdo aggregator put that out, and I actually he said that DeMeco said it, and I was like, no, he definitely would not say that. Like, I don't think DeMeco will admit it on Friday.
He very clearly said day to day.
Yeah, he very clearly said day to day, and then the guy corrected it, and I was like, you should probably just take it down because that's not that. But yeah, it was. He also has some Dameon Pierce expected and stuff. I don't know what that was about, but he took it down. So a lot of people see that, and it's like, man, what are you doing, brother?
We're basing this on the type of injury and how CJ Stroud talked about Tank Dell that he's going to miss this week.
Yeah. All right. Appreciate everyone for coming through. We got a lot to get into. We got practice. We're going to practice. We in here talking about practice. We're going to see practice in a second. We will hear from Bobby Slowik.
Find the button.
We will hear from Matt Burke. Cody Stoots always loves him a Matt Burke.
We in here talking about practice.
Loves him a Matt Burke conversation. And we will hear from Frank Ross.
Was that a called kickoff play? That's what I want to know.
On the Fairbairn?
Yep.
Okay. I thought they should have just kicked it out. kept perhaps some momentum, but who knows? Appreciate everyone for rolling through. This has been S&L live stream tonight, 10:30 on my channel. Cody will have a news video later today, and we got you covered. Always remember, when it comes to this Texan stuff, whether we agree, whether we disagree, we're all in this together.
Eat good, sleep good, be good. We'll talk Texans again soon.